Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Got a great episode for you today. We're going to do a whirlwind tour, updates of all my plants, see how they're doing in winter here. We just got through the holidays. And then I have a very special thought for the day near the end of the video, so please hang on for that. It's a pretty good one and has a lot to do with, what's going to happen in 2025. Um, but first, I want to take a look at a picture that one of my loyal viewers sent me. So one of my loyal viewers, Lee, who I correspond with a fair amount, both in email and I think in comments, he sent me this picture of a forest he created. And the thing that's neat about this is, I like to send out cuttings to folks, and all these are cuttings that I sent them, and I'm very, very happy to see that, they're doing very well and they made it, and some of these plants are kind of getting out there. I mean, this is a mix of there's Manny here and variegated and the Mediopicta, sort of what I call the candy stick rainbow jade. There's a cork bark on the right there. You can see that one really likes to grow. And I think in the back behind that cool, what I think of as an Oreo looking rock, which Lee described as he told me the aspects of it. He collects rock. It sounds like he collects rocks near where he walks. And I can't remember the details, but it's a very interesting rock. And we have a minima, Portulacaria minima back there. And I'm just so happy that he sent me this picture, and I thought I'd share it with you. I love the green pot, and we have a rainbow variety forest well on its way. And let's get back on the tour. We'll kind of start out with my river jade. We pruned this, I think, in a video earlier this week, although this is a week back. And then here's another. This is my golden aria, but this one's looking quite good. You can see it's recovering, and the golden aria always grows well. It's got a nice trunk there. I named this one Apollo because of that golden glow. You can see behind it here we have my Lilliput Mountain with my dragons there. It is leafed out quite a bit now. It actually is growing rocks into that big pot, which I like. This is a large variegated, which if you check the channel, boy, this thing has grown a lot, and I really am super excited about the possibilities of where this one's going. I'm really, really happy to see it is growing strongly. This next up one is kind of a sad case. I know Dave's Bonsai did a recent video on ugly bonsai, and boy, this one would fit right in. So I don't know, maybe I'll just cut it off about here at some point. I haven't decided, but yeah, I mean, it's got a nice trunk, so I'm not going to chuck it, but it's not one of my most favorite species. Here's another look at this river jade. You can see it's actually looking pretty good. And let's move to the next shelf. My Frankie cork barks. It's got some nice corking. It's got a nice chunky trunk on the bottom. Pruned that up a few episodes back. It's looking good. This one is, I repotted this last year, and it's got kind of this bald spot in the back, so I'm hoping to, and you can see it definitely needs watering. When the leaves look like this, really wrinkled like that, I tend to just soak the pot for, I don't know, 10 minutes and go from there. You can see it's got, I think of this as its sister plant in the back. It's got a cool yellow pot. Just filling out. I would kind of like to widen this one a bit, so it's still just filling in from the last severe pruning I gave it. And yeah, so those two are doing well. Let's see, move some of these. This is Tiny Tim. Had a video on that one. Kind of a straight trunk, but I'm hoping it'll go somewhere. This could be another candidate for the ugly bonsai video that Dave's put together. But it is growing, and so this one had so little going on. I'm just happy that it seems to be recovering because, I really want to keep it going. It's, from the same video I did this one in. This one I'm a lot happier about it. You can see it's growing really, really well. And I had pruned those at about the same time. This is my Caribbean Blue. I like this one, really small blue Bunsen pot. It just loves growing under these indoor lights. This is a cool one of my cuttings that it obviously severely needs a prune, which we'll do soon, but it's got this cool dragon scale pot, and you can see it's just growing. I have it just hanging out over a shelf, and it's really taken off. I mean, this thing had no roots when I put it in here, and it must have a ton now. This is the Akadama soil, which I feel is really seems to be working out well, and I can just kind of wired it in the pot here because it had, as I said, no roots to hold it steady at all. So that'll be fun to work on. And I've got here's another semi cascade or more of a slant style, and it's just taken off. It's sort of taken over the room. It's you see it's actually growing from one shelf over to the next, and I just kind of let these guys go here. I wanted them to thicken up a bit. Um, but yeah, I think it's time to do some pruning on this. So that will be coming up soon. It's got a cool yellow pot, which I always like. Here, we'll take a closer look at it. You can see I mean, it's growing up into the lights and just all over the place. And it's getting to be kind of a nuisance to work around. So I think I'll be pruning that very, very soon. Because it's got this long growth from when I first brought it in. They kind of take off. So yeah, here's another variegated. Oh man, semi-cascade really needs a prune. I think you can see a common theme showing up here. Um, I've just been exhausted lately, and I really have not been pruning like I should. But they're healthy, so I'm, not super concerned. Here's another Frankie cork bark. Oh, hey Mabel. Oh, Mabel's got something on her nose here. Yeah, she's always interested in the bonsai activities here. But yeah, so here's a really nice corking on this one. I'll just move that out of the way. There, another variegated. I mean, look at that. Yeah, that was in another one in my famous tree X of 6, where I really cut these back, and I think they're ready to do some more pruning. Here's some of my Mame recent videos. Some have really recovered well and are taken off. I had to sort of repot blue there. I think, basically it just makes sense to repot these at least once or twice a year. Here's another variegated forest. Yeah, the pruning story is getting kind of old, but it definitely needs pruning. These really love being under these close, bright lights. They don't mind being indoors at all. But yeah, this one will need some tuning up. Same thing here. And I think I just had that forest in a recent video. Here's another one of my Lilliput. Just letting it grow. Another variegated. Also needs a tune-up. Um, so yeah, I need to get on the stick with working on those. And here's one that it was just a cutting that I shoved in here and also taking off. Yeah, I probably have too many cuttings. Let's go over to the wide bench. Same story here. It's a cutting that needs some TLC. And here is my Island in the Sun rainbow, variegated. I just love this one. It's another tree we pruned up, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. It's really filling out now. So this is where I need to get all these other ones that I'm pointing out that need pruning for sure. Hey, Mabel. Mabel seems like she needs some attention here. Yeah, so I think she has to come up and sit on my lap while we do the rest of this video here. And here is one of my older ports. It's a cork bark. It's not corking much, but it is recovering. Here is my rainbow jade, which we did a lot of pruning. It's kind of coming in with some fine growth now. This one too, getting quite dense. I can probably come in here and give a bit of a tune-up. I was showing that one over Christmas. It was kind of nice. And here is some. This is a cutting that I started, I think when fall was starting, I put it in this pot and it's taken off really well. It's actually right here. I cut it off right there, and then stuck it in that pot. And again, this Akadama based soil, it really, I mean, look at the growth on it. It looks quite healthy and is just shot out growth all over. Yeah, this will be another big project. Definitely needs pruning. We'll be working on that. I've got a few ideas for what I want to do with that one, so I'm looking forward to that very soon. And let's go down here. Ah, here we go, the $25 bonsai. Yeah, it definitely needs, it's not really had a pruning. I kind of just got them, pruned the roots, got them in here, and now it's time to take the next step. Got some good stories with that one, so that'll be a fun episode. I had some insect battles. Here's another of my variegated. It's doing quite well. Again, it's you know, time to prune it, and you can sort of see it's quite healthy. But there's definitely some pruning I didn't do before because there wasn't a whole lot of growth that I think I can now address. Let's move it out of the way here. And let's see. Yeah, so here is another one that also could use a tune-up. I've pruned this one, I think, only once so far, really. And the same thing here. This is one I call Dancer. Looks to me like a ballerina splaying things out. This is the Manny. We just did a recent video on that one. And then I have my lodgepole pine forest over here on the right, which also a recent video. You can see it's really, I think this is going to be great because it's really starting to fill in densely, and I think I can really start working on some fine detail on that one. But let's take a tour out to the chiller area. This is my unheated garage, and I have a large jade here, which will be a future project in the spring. This is, you can't see the trunk, but this is like a natural clump forest, and I have a large pot. I'm going to put this in. You can see it's blooming, which is quite nice, and just starting, so I'll probably get a lot more here quite soon. And I have several shelves out here as well. Let's look at the top one. These are some plants a viewer sent me. Leonard, I believe, and boy, they're doing quite well. Look at them; they're very healthy. They love it out here in this chiller area with the lighting and the cool temperatures. It's probably about in the 50s out here. Here is can't remember what it's called. This one has been kind of rough, but I think it's going to survive, and I think I just need to get it to spring, and it'll take off. Here's a Gollum jade I have, which is kind of an interesting variety where it's these sort of, or no, Hobbit jade, I'm sorry, and probably needs a prune. So I'll be working on that. Age-old story, lots of pruning needs to be done, and this is just a standard jade, which could also use a tune-up. It's using a lot of water lately, so I got to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'm going to have a jade pruning extravaganza here soon to catch up with some of these. And you can see how the leaf kind of bends like that. You can tell they need water in that case. And yeah, these guys, I feel they use more water inside here. Here's another, this is a variegated Gallum Jade. And look at that, it's got some interesting leaf. It almost looks, it almost looks like a separate plant. So let's take a look at the second shelf. This is, I had some large jades I pruned back. These had no leaves or anything. I just kind of stuck them in this pot. And you can see now they're really taking off. They tend to really enjoy growing in the winter. And I'm just going to let this one go wild and we'll eventually prune it. Here are some more cuttings that I got, not from Leonard. I'm sorry, I forgot the viewer's name. I'll go back and add it in the comments. Beautiful, beautiful plants. I did a whole episode on that, which I'll link to. You can see these are going quite well too. Like, as I said, these jades really like to grow out here. That's an aeonium, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with those. I love how they look. They look like a flowering rose or something. Let's turn this around and you can see the tight growth on these. I'll put a link to the video where I put these two mini forests together with a gift that I got from a friend. But look at they're really thickening up, and yeah, again, need some pruning, but they've done quite well. And I just really look at how the tight spreading growth of a canopy on these under these lights is really it's really cool. They really have surprised me how well they have how well they've grown. Um, Especially even since I brought them in, they seem to be growing better indoors than they did outdoors. And let's see, behind that I have a Gollum Jade. It's doing well. You can tell it looks pretty dry. The leaves are getting a little thin, so this one probably also needs water. I tend to keep them pretty dry, and when they're showing signs of stress, then I water them really heavily, and then that usually, but it's about once a week I have to water them here. And Magic Shelf number three, we've got, again, more jades. Here's my desert rose, which is still quite plump. I keep hoping it might be a little cool for it to bloom here. So I'm thinking about taking it up into the house and putting it in a window to see, but I've never seen that one bloom. Here's a tall jade that is probably going to be a baobab style tree. And here's one we cut back majorly. You can check the playlist for that. Let me turn it around where this is more the front, but really thick trunk, but it was just tall with no interest, so I cut it way back and it's recovered really, really well. Here's a large jade I have. Look at the trunk on this baby. I mean, that is nice. It probably could also use some styling. I'm just letting it grow a bit. It's got a really full canopy here. And here's a similar one where I cut a very large jade back, and now it's giving me all kinds of options for further styling. So it has some nice bark too, so we'll have to work on that. I believe this is an echeveria. Pretty impressive. I got this at a as a large group planning with some Home Depot stuff and kind of salvaged it out of there. Got another Gollum jade there. Here's my rainbow dwarf jade. I planted this as a forest and I've just been letting it go crazy. Seems to be quite happy out here. Got some ideas for that. So as soon as I find some time, we'll be doing a little work on that. And yeah, so that is Magic Shelf number three. And I've got like two lights, the same kind of lights I use indoor out here. I just, it's basically the same. There's a little more space. But yeah, it's a nice setup, and it gives me easy access to take a look at them and water them, and yeah, it's worked out pretty well. As I said, I'm always impressed with how well they do out here in this cooler temperature. Yeah, for sure. I want to take a look at this because let me turn it around. You can see this is the variegated Gollum Jade, and let me just turn it around and take a closer look at it because it had some interesting growth, and it must just be maybe how these leaves initially come out and then it'll elongate. I don't know, but it's interesting. I'm super excited about that one. And then there's the tiny little. It's a Korean mini jade. Um, Here's some stuff I have out front. These are another ports. I've got just standard ports and then a variegated, and they do really well just kind of sitting here. And let's take a look at shelf number three. This is a whole, this was a surprise in the fall. I found I had way too many trees, too many cuttings. You see, I've got some Gollum Jades here, and some of them were just so neat looking. Like, look at the trunk on this one that I couldn't bear to throw it away. And so I have those, and then I've got a bunch of smaller jades here, different varieties. These were all cuttings. You can see I kind of wired them in there in a bizarre fashion, but they're growing really well. I'm getting tight growth. Again, I salvaged a lot of these out of a Costco group planning, so I don't even know what they are. But that one's interesting. Nice trunk and this one, look at it. It's like almost like a button little triangle. So I think it must be a Gollum variety. I don't know. And then here's my second shelf. I've got these are some large cuttings that I did some structural pruning and I just stuck them in here. This Akadama base soil. They seem to be growing quite well. And just a few other ports here. This is just kind of a can't bear to throw it away. Maybe I'll give them away. I don't know. Maybe I can sell them on Etsy. I don't know. This is like just a shelf. I do have to figure out what I'm going to do with these because I am just getting too many plants. And then here's the lowest level where I've got a few standard jades. There's a kind of a mixed port pot. They don't do much growing out here. I mean, they grow, but much less than inside. But they're so plump and healthy looking. So they do really well in just cooler, slower paced area as well. Here's a nice jade that I have in a tiny Iker pot. Also could use some pruning. These are some off the $25 bonsai setup. These are some cuttings that I water propagated and then stuck in there, and then a couple of more variegateds there. So those are most of my plants. And hey, let's take a little tour indoors. I'm not going to show you all the plants in there, but I got I got a few that are worth seeing. This first up one is quite an eye catcher. This is my Christmas cactus. I guess it's really a Thanksgiving cactus, but wow, look at it. I'm going to do a video on this one because I'm going to prune it, but look at the color on this, and it's very interesting. It started out, this was a beautiful red color, and I just love this. You get this bright red and then green, and then I've got this kind of black gray pot, which I got on Etsy. I think it came from maybe Spain, maybe Czechoslovakia. I'll put a link to it, but I just love this green, red, black, and then some white pumice on the soil there. But you can see it's blooming and it's got a lot more coming out. It's not the greatest shape. I had actually had this outside in the summer. Learned a lot about these, which I'll go over in the video. But it got really burnt, because they don't really like direct sunlight, at least not the hot summer sun we eventually get here in Seattle, and I had to cut it back. But you can see, it's recovered. It's healthy looking. It's thickening up. There are actually three different plants in here. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to moving this on. I had this last Christmas actually, and I just kind of pulled them apart loosely and shoved it in this pot. So yeah, there'll be some repotting and some, moving on and trying to style this in more the shape of a bonsai at some point here. So yeah, here is a aloe. I think it's called I don't know, hot pink aloe or something. It gets these really bright pink um, edges here. You can see a little bit outside. It really shines, but it. I've had it for a while. It's gotten so big that I just couldn't bear to get rid of it. So that's something I just keep indoors. Here is the emergency repot. I did a video on that. This is my wife's plant, and she just likes to let them grow big and wide and go crazy. So she'll be taking this back to her classroom. You can see Harambe in there roaming the forest. So yeah, this one has recovered quite well. And I want to show something to some of my critics. I do more than succulent bonsai. Here, for example, this is a ficus. I believe this is a Hawaiian, maybe variegated. And yeah, you can see I've pruned it. So not just succulents. I have living proof right here. And that is the end of the tour, and we're on for the thought for the day. And for that, I want to rely on one of my regular viewers and commenters and active folks on the channel. We also correspond quite a bit. And he sent me this email, which I will share with you here. So Dave wanted to, and I'm happy to take comments. This is living proof, not comments, suggestions for shows or things you want me to cover. I think it's very, very helpful. But it says, Happy New Year to you and your family. Will you be doing a 2025 goals video? I love this idea. And then Dave shared with me his goal of reducing the number of trees slightly, essentially getting rid of duplicates and trees that just don't grow well for me. And the focus will be on improving my current specimens and creating 1 to 2 forests or a penjing and try to stop keeping cuttings. Well, Dave, these thoughts are directly in line with mine, and I really appreciate this. And as I always appreciate the emails and correspondence we send back and forth. And I think these are some great goals. And after having taken you through all the plants I have, I think you can agree that I also could probably share in this fantastic goal of reducing the number of trees slightly, especially that last shelf I showed you where I just can't bear to part with cuttings, which is another one of Dave's points. So you were really reading my mind on this, Dave, and I couldn't agree more. And one more thing, I've always been an optimist, and so I love the idea of goals rather than resolutions because to me, there's just a mental barrier, a barrier. As soon as I hear that word resolution, I'm like, oh, God. I'm going to have to suffer through something. And if you can instead flip that around and say, hey, what are my opportunities? What can I do here? And what do I want to accomplish? And, what would be good for me? That's a whole different viewpoint, and you're much more likely to dive into it. And so I really appreciate this, Dave. Yeah, I definitely, I want to probably move some of my trees on. And actually, so here's going to be my thought for the day. I don't want to just steal yours outright, Dave. So I'm going to come up with my own and tell a little story that I have remembered now for a very long time. And this story is about being ruthless. You see, in my neighborhood in the summertime, a lot of folks, mostly retired folks, they give garden tours, right? So, it's kind of posted and, there's a club you can belong to. And anyway, so I used to love doing this. And one of these tours, it's in the summertime when it's nice. One of these tours I'll never forget. Went to this woman's house, very modest house, and really, her landscaping and planting it was one of the most impressive I had ever seen because you didn't feel like you were walking onto a Hollywood set or, a tap farm layout or something. It was very organic looking and it wasn't overdone, and it was just beautiful, and everything was healthy. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't underdone. It was a beautiful mix of mostly sort of natural native plants. And it was just so impressive, like because you sort of like it looked very natural. And this is what I like about my most favorite bonsai. The initial feeling is just impression, right? It just looks so good. And then as you start delving in further, you see a lot of detail that really surprises you. And so I love this tour, and then there's some questions, and you can talk to the person afterwards. And I asked her, I'm like, how do you keep your plants? She had some potted plants too, and landscaping. How do you keep everything so beautiful and so impressive? And she looked at me and she kind of smirked, and she said, "Well, you have to be ruthless." And everyone laughed, and then she went on to explain it. She goes, if you have something that's just not working out, why spend time on it? Pick plants that are going to work for you. And if something works for your neighbor for whatever reason, and you like it and you try it in your garden and it isn't working for you, move on, like be ruthless, give it away, throw it away, And so I think one of my goals for 2025 is to be a bit more ruthless, right? To kind of move some stuff on that I'm just sort of tired of working on or doesn't inspire me, and put more focus on the stuff that I really love, and go with that. And so with that, I want to thank you for spending time with me on this tour of all my trees and shelves. And thank you, Dave, for the amazing suggestion. And like I said, I welcome suggestions from others. And I want to thank you all for spending time with me, and I'll see you all again very soon.